Welcome to CEO Sales Sessions. I'm Gazi, your host, former political staffer turned entrepreneur and founder of Sales Beyond Scripts, where I build CEOs whose sales feel effortless and profit becomes inevitable. I've spent years in the highest pressure rooms, both in politics and business, and I'm bringing you everything I learned straight to this mic. No fluff, no filler, just actionable steps, tough love, and big thinking alongside some of the sharpest CEOs in the game. Let's get to work. Welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in to my first ever podcast episode. This is the launch of CEO Sales Sessions with Gazi, and I'm so grateful that you're here. When I was thinking about what is the most burning conversation I want to have with you and what would that topic be, the only thing that came to my mind was talking around sales and why your sales feel so inconsistent, because this is the number one thing that I hear from female founders that I'm working with. So this is what this conversation is all about. If you want to grab notes, let's do it. Grab a pen, a paper, and sit down. And if you're the type that just wants to go for a walk or maybe wash some dishes while you do this, I trust that you will get exactly what you need out of today's session. I also want to tell you what my commitment to you is. I wanted these sessions really to give you a taste of what it's like to get coached by me, what it's like to work with me and scale your business with my support. And one of the things that I'm known for is my no BS approach. I cut right to it because I know that you're busy and you have big goals, and I don't want to waste any time. So my commitment to you is that when you tune in every Tuesday to this episode, is that you're not going to hear fluff. You're not going to get answers that you could get on AI. You're really going to hear from an expert who is sharing what I'm implementing and what I'm seeing in the industry now. So with that, let's dive into today's episode, why your sales feel so inconsistent. If you're listening to this, you're probably an expert and you're really good at what it is you do and you know what is your zone of genius. Now, what happens with experts who are so good at what they do is most times they tell me they don't love selling. They're like, that's the part of the business that I just would love to delegate or just not have to worry about. And I just want to do what I love doing, working with clients. And I love that. But what I know to be true is that if you have no profit, you have no business. And so when I work with female entrepreneurs and key people of influence, one of the things we focus on is our sales. And when I say sales, I don't just mean the income, the money that's there. I focus on sales hygiene, on sales habits, on sales beliefs, and ultimately your relationship with money and selling. And one of the things that, again, I want to be upfront with you about is that a lot of women have a toxic relationship with selling. They don't have a healthy relationship with selling or with money. And in most cases, this is tied back to our money story, what we've believed about money growing up, but also our relationship with what we've seen and been taught around sales. And because of these old beliefs and weird beliefs of teaching and experiences with money and selling, we've built this, what I'm going to call toxic relationship with selling. So let me know if this is you. Yes or no, if this relates to where you're at. Do you sell when you need it or do you sell daily? And I gave you two versions of the question. Let me ask it this way. Yes or no? You sell when you need it. That's what I find the situation that most women are in, is that they don't actually sell every single day. Selling is not a part of their systems or non-negotiables. They do it when they need it. And so right away, if you just think of that, you only ask something when you need it. You only do something when you need it. The energy of need. Like, that's not the right energy you want to go into selling with. You don't want to go into it like you need it. There's this sort of like gripping energy, like you're desperate for it. But the reality is that's how most women are selling. They go through a few weeks of no sales or no dollars and they're like, oh shit, I got to focus on money. I got to sell. What can I sell? What's my next launch? And so right away, if you are that person, I want you to just pause and ask yourself, how could I shift from going from selling when I need it to selling all the time? I have this saying with my clients, we're ABC. We're always closing, always be closing. That's what it stands for. So this is an invitation for you that if you're part of that category that sells when they feel like they need it, what would it look like to make selling a habit? Rather than something you have to do, it's something you do every day. I promise you it will totally change your relationship with sales. So that's number one. Number two is your feeling around it. I know that you're in a toxic relationship with selling because when I ask my clients questions or I'm at networking events or speaking at events with women and asking them what is the block when it comes to selling, a lot of them are telling me that it feels icky. They feel embarrassed, it feels wrong, and essentially they don't feel good doing it. And this is something I teach my clients a lot, this idea of what you feel is what you create. Yes, it's what we think is what we create, but it's also that feeling. And so if you have a feeling around selling that is embarrassed or icky or wrong or not confident, that is going to be expressed through your buying conversation to your prospect. And that is such a repellent to the buyer. When they know that you don't actually feel good doing this, that it's wrong, the energy is just not there. So ask yourself, is that you? Do you feel icky when you're selling? Or do you feel really good? Because these are two clues that will tell us why your sales are inconsistent. And yes, it's also a systems thing, right? And we hear this all the time. You're only as great as your systems. So when I look at a business and sales is only something they do once in a while, or their sales strategy is in their head, or there is no actual process, well, obviously your sales are going to be inconsistent. That's obviously going to happen because there is no process or repeatable structures. We want repeatable systems, things that happen often to build a sales process so that we know that there's a constant movement in the pipeline at all times. That's the inconsistency showing up, is when there aren't those systems and we're only selling when we feel like we have to do that. And another thing that I want to share with you, why I see sales being inconsistent, and we're going to dive into this in a second conversation in episode 2 as well, is this idea that so many of us are asking content to do the job of a salesperson. Let me repeat that. So many of us are asking content to do the job of a salesperson. So a lot of female founders I see can busy themselves with marketing. It's like, oh, I have to create content. This idea of like create content that converts. Sure, you want to have content that's doing the job of content, but there is a job to sales. And as a CEO, most times your job, if you have a team, this might look different where you've delegated part of this department to leaders or experts who are helping you. But primarily as a founder, your job is to bring in the money, the people, the resources, and be focused on the profit. Not to be posting 3 times a week. Yes, that's part of it, but I want to make this distinction for female founders. Again, no fluff, no BS here. You cannot busy your calendar with marketing efforts and wonder why the sales are inconsistent. So as a CEO, we want to create a bridge, a funnel, a client journey that, let's say, bridges the gap between marketing and sales. You have to do the selling. There is no shortcut to buying conversations. So I want to share that with you because maybe that's you as you're listening. You're like, you know what? I do a really good job at like showing up online or creating content. But if I'm looking at my habits as a CEO, as a non-negotiable, what are my sales habits? And am I selling weekly? What are your sales numbers? When's the last time you had a buying conversation? So I share this with you, which is the good news is there is no secret formula or framework that you have to follow. There are certain predictable paths, and that's why you would hire someone like a sales strategist to help you build out your sales process. But in this episode, I just want you to be really honest with yourself and do this audit. And ask yourself honestly, why are your sales inconsistent? And can you look at yourself as an introspective founder and CEO and ask yourself, what are my sales habits like? What are my sales hygiene like? Do I sell when I need it or do I sell all the time? And when I sell, what are my feelings behind selling? Do I feel proud selling my service to someone? Do I feel proud sharing my product, knowing that that's going to solve that person's problem? Or do I feel icky and gross? And it's not to say you've been doing something wrong, but maybe an opportunity to see, is there a new way to sell that feels more aligned for you? In the next few episodes, I'm going to dive deeper into this topic because I feel as a woman, I want to learn how to sell in a way that feels good for me. And for too long, I was being coached by men who sold in a bro marketing way that didn't feel ethical or aligned for me. So if this episode sparked some curiosity for you and is making you think, I've got some work to do around sales, tune in every Tuesday for another episode of CEO Sales Session with Gazi. I'm going to cover your burning questions around sales and bring in experts that can help fill in the blanks for you to grow like the CEO that you are and for you to focus on profit, because that, at the end of the day, is the only thing that matters when building a business. To wrap this up, I want to ask you what your takeaway is. This is my first episode. I would love to hear from you. If you could drop in and give me some feedback, connect with me on Instagram and tell me who you want to hear from or what topics you want me to cover, I will do my best to bring you the best of the best topics and guests to this podcast every Tuesday. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next week. Well, that brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you for sharing your time with me. I know as a CEO that time is your most valuable asset, so let's make it worth it. What's one thing that you're going to implement or embody today? Because listening without action is just entertainment. So DM me your takeaway on Instagram at AuthenticGazi. I want to hear it, and I promise you I will hold you accountable. And if this episode resonated, share it with a woman in your circle who needs to hear this. And if you haven't already, follow and subscribe so you never miss a Tuesday. I'll see you next week.